Hello there, Stampers. Susan here with Pumpkin Hill Stampers. So today I have a show and tell project for you. This one is a quad fold corner pop-up card. This is one of the cards that's going out in my Fun Fold template class for December. So you can follow along. I'm going to show you how we prep the materials, and then I'll go ahead and make you a project today with some fun product. Okay, so if you signed up for my class, here we go. You've received your packets by now, I hope. If not, let me know. You have a printed out template, directions here for this, with a picture, and then you also have a pre-made template in your folder. Okay, so here's what the template might look like. It might be out of different paper, because I'm using retired papers for this, but it's going to be similar to this in fold, so you can see how it maneuvers and operates. Okay, then you also have in your packet a pre-cut template practice kit. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and show you how I prepared the practice kit, and then I'm going to go ahead and put one together for you. Okay, so first off, I'm going to use my template to help me go ahead and cut my materials, and this is what you should do too. Okay, so have your template out with you, and then we're going to get our supplies. So the first thing to do is to cut our paper. So this base, as far as I was making it, was out of DSP. Okay, you could do it out of cardstock. I wouldn't use necessarily colored cardstock because it's a little bit thick to maneuver the fold with, so I use DSP, but whatever you're comfortable with, you can make it work. Okay, so I'm using a piece of Designer Series paper. This is from the Hues of Happiness product bundle that's in the current annual catalog. And it says here to cut the DSP base to 7 by 8 1/4. So I'm just going to do that. I go 7 and then 8 1/4. Okay, that's all the cutting we need to do at the moment. So 7 by 8 1/4. Now I need to score it. So now I'm going to bring in my scoreboard, and it says here to score it at 2 3/4 from the left side and then on the top edge. So this is what I mean. Here's my 2 3/4, so I'm putting my space in there. That's why I like this scoreboard, because I can maneuver it and make it work for what I'm working on each time. So 2 3/4. So I've got that at 2 3/4. So I'm going to go ahead and score it down. Now remember, this is DSP. It's thinner than cardstock, so don't press too hard or you're going to tear right through it. Okay, so score gently on DSP. Then I turned it. Now, did you notice I turned it clockwise? Now, it's not necessarily important that you do it, but I'm going to tell you to do it that way because you're going to end up with your folded down corner here where the two are intersecting. It's just something that I did. If you do it the other way, your paper will just be reversed. So here's 2 3/4 again. Okay, so now I've got my two sections at 2 3/4. Alright, so I can put my scoring tool away. Alright, so now I've got my DSP, right? And I've got one score line there and one score line here. Now, because it folds this way, this is my inside and this is my outside. So whatever you want your outside panel to look like is the one you want facing up when you score it, and you score and then you turn to the right and score it again. Okay? Now, the next thing that the instructions tell you in the tutorial, okay, after scoring, is that you're going to fold along the score lines. Okay, so I'm going to fold this down and score it gently with my bone folder, and then come around this way and score it again. Okay. Now, here's the tricky part of this fun fold. It's not tricky, it just takes some patience. Okay, I have a score line here and I have a score line here. What you're going to do, now this is the top part, I'm folding this over, and what you want to do is make this score line on the flowered part match the score line on the inner side. Okay, so do that on both sides before you crease, and then I just pull my finger back and give it a little press like that. Then you come in with your bone folder and give it a little bit more. Okay, so far you with me? I think so. Alright, so we've got down, we've got over, and we've got the flap. Now what you have to do is you need to make it pull in. Okay, so far we're here. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this and fold it down and fold that back. And then we're going to take this in and fold this down, fold that back. Okay, so bring this down, and then on that crease, fold it back like that. Okay, I'm going to do that again. Bring it down, then along this crease, fold it back. Okay, now we're going to do the same thing on the side. Fold this in, here's the crease, pinch it down. Okay, it makes that pop up, it's okay, and fold that down. Now, if you put them both in at the same time, see how I did that? I went both in at the same time. You get the corner pop up. Okay, and then when you're there, just go ahead and crease everything again. Okay, so there is our corner pop-up base. Wasn't too hard, right? We can do that. All right, so now I have my template in front of me again. So I've got this inner portion. So what I did was I took another piece of that DSP, and it says on your templates, mount should be 4 by 5 1/4. Okay, so I'm going to bring my paper cutter back in, and from that same piece that I cut from originally, I don't think this piece is big enough, I'll use the other one. Yep. We're going to cut another panel that's 4 by 5 1/4. So this is only 5, so I'm going to cut it sideways. Let's see. So now you might want to look at your papers. This is purples and that's the yellow, so it doesn't really matter. So I'm going to do 5 1/4 by 4. Now, if you wanted to use colored cardstock instead of another section of this DSP, you certainly could. Okay, remember, they're your cards. You make them your way. But this is how I prepared your sample kit for you to make. So that's going to go there. Then it also says I need a 5 by 3 3/4 neutral for a liner. Now, I've already cut that because you guys know how to cut cardstock. So just follow the measures. So that's going to end up in there. Okay, and then we have another piece here, 2 5/8 by 2 5/8. So if you wanted to add a secondary sentiment or another embellishment, stamped image, whatever you want to do, that's how you would line that corner of the card, if you choose to line it. Okay, it's in your kit if you want to do it, but it's totally up to you. Do what you want to do in your project. Okay, so let's put it together. Alright, so I'm using Happiness Abounds because that coordinates with this set, and I've got my Granny Apple Green ink. Okay, so here's my stamp set I'm using, Happiness Abounds. Then I'm also using the tag set that you guys seen in my project most recently, this designer set tags. Okay, I've got the large tag and the small tag, and I'm using this little leaf die as well. And I've already pre-die cut some elements for that. Okay, and I went ahead after I cut these. So I've got my large tag and I embellished that by embossing it with this plate in the, I think it's Whimsical Leaves, in the catalog. So I gave that some texture. And then from a second piece of Designer Series paper, anybody know this piece? This one here. I've got coordinating dies that coordinate with the stamp set. They also coordinate with this paper. So you can trim out a section of flowers and then use your paper cutting machine, right? Your die cutting machine, and you can line these up on the different prints here and get your flowers die cut from the different papers. So it takes a little work. You got to trim out just your color so you're not cutting through other flowers, right? If you really want to get the most of it, and then you just line up your dies and trim out the flowers. So I've done that already, and I have 3 large blossoms. Okay, and then from Granny Apple Green, I did 3 sprigs from my die set, and then I have another tag here that I'm going to use as the embellishment. So first things first, let's put the papers together and then I'll show you what I'm going to do with all that. Okay, so I'm just going to use my liquid adhesive. You use what you like to use. But the first thing I'm going to do is line the inside. Now, there's 2 reasons for this. One, it's decorative, right? That's fun. Secondly, it adds a little more weight to the project since we're using DSP as the base, right? We don't want it to be too thin, so this adds a little bit of thickness to our project. Just kind of doubles up that DSP. So just line that up inside. Okay, and then our white is going to go over the top. Now you could use a piece of vellum and then it would show those flowers underneath. Whatever you want to do. I'm using white today, and whites are in your kit. Okay, so that's going to go there. Now I'm going to stamp that before I adhere it down. So I'm going to open up my Granny Apple Green. And remember the way this ends up folding, right? This ends up folding and we see this corner. So you don't necessarily want to stamp your sentiment down low, right? You might want to do a small sentiment here, but think about that when you're stamping your sentiment. So I'm going to go across the top, and I'm making this into a birthday card because I have a lot of birthday friends in the month of January, so I'm going to need lots of cards. Okay, ink that up, and I'm going to stamp it up here near the top, just like that. Okay, so now I can add that one in because my stamp sentiment was nice and clean. Remember, cardstock has two sides, so if you goof or smudge it, just flip it over and try again. It's the wonderful thing about cardstock, it has two sides, and when you glue it down, nobody sees the other side. Okay, so there's that. Now if you wanted to add this piece up here, you could. I think for now I'm going to omit it because I don't really have anything I want to put on there, but you can put something on there if you want. Okay, so now this folds down. So now I'm going to make an embellishment for the front. So this is where all these pre-cut dies come in. Okay, I'm going to make a cluster of flowers that's going to dress up the front of my card. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add this large tag, and this is going to kind of cover the front of my card. So it's kind of like a false front. Now, you could use a large die, you could use a sentiment, you could use a tag like I am. Whatever you fancy using, use it. Right, it's your card. I'm just going to use this large tag. Okay, from here I have my secondary tag. Now I got to stamp a sentiment on there. So I have the one that says, wishing you all the happiness you can imagine, right? Which is great for a lot of different occasions. But I'm going to put that on this tag like that. Now I'm going to add that tag right here, and again I'm just going to glue it straight down with my adhesive. So it's going to come off like this. So now I know all my tags are inside the perimeter of my card. Right? We can't go outside our card or it won't fit in our envelope. So be careful of that. Alright, now I've got these flowers to add. So I'm going to put the flowers on dimensionals because I want a little bit of wiggle room behind them to put in the greenery. Okay, so I'm just going to put a dimensional on each of those. Okay, so 1, 2, 3. Now I've got one here. I'm just going to slide that like that. I have another one. I'm going to slide down here. And I'm going to put the third one over here to the side. Now I'm putting all my dimensionals on this tag because I don't want to adhere my layers together, otherwise my card won't pop open, right? I don't want that. Alright, so there's that. Now I think I'm going to use, what am I going to use? I was going to use mini glue dots, but I don't really have the ones on the table I want, so I'll just use adhesive because these are going to tuck in. So I'm just going to add a little bit of adhesive to the back, and then I can slide these in as decorative embellishments. And you can get as fancy as you guys want to with this kind of stuff, right? It doesn't really matter what you do, they're your cards. And I just noticed I'm hiding that a little bit, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to peel that up. Remember, it's just one dimensional. Peel that up, stick that back down there so it stays put, and move it over. Now if you move it and you need to put a new dimension on it, just put a new dimensional on it. Okay? It's kind of the nice thing about dimensionals is that you can reposition them carefully. Pull them up carefully. Worst case, you go underneath and cut it and then use a new one. But I was able to pull it up. So there we go. There's my project for you today. So see how I was able to give it this false front, right? It looks all decorative, but then it's a surprise in that it pops open like that. So that's kind of cool. So that's your fun fold for December. Well, one of them. We have another one coming. Okay, now I want to share a demo swap I got. Now this is where I got the idea for this fold. Okay, this came from a demo swap that I do with a group. This came from Natalie Gramley. And so she used the big sunflower here as her die front, and then she matched it by coordinating her stamps on the inside, and this is where she put the hello down here in the corner that showed, right? And then she could write her note inside. So different ideas for you to think about how to put a project like this together, okay? And which embellishments to use. All right, if you haven't joined my Fun Fold class yet and you want to get some of these fun templates in the mail along with a practice kit to follow along with, you are welcome to sign up. Just email me at susan@pumpkinhillstampers.com. and I will get you all signed up and get you started. And for those of you who are in my class, if you have questions as you're going through, don't hesitate to ask. Send me an email, send me a text, call me, for heaven's sake. You know, that's what phones are really supposed to be for, phone calls. And I'm happy to help you through it. All right, everybody, have a great day. Do some fun stamping. If you want to try this template, it is on my blog. The links are below. I'm happy to share with you, and I'm glad that you joined me today. All right, everybody, see you again real soon.